Assalamu alaikum. Today we'll be discussing about the eicosanoids. So what are basically eicosanoids? Eicosanoids are basically the local hormones. Okay, they have strong hormone-like actions in tissues where they are produced, and they have their specific effects on target cells close to their formation. They are rapidly degraded, so they are not transported to cell sites within the body. So basically, they work at the place where they are secreted, and they are not stored because they are very unstable. So they are the local hormones, and they are secreted from the cells to a specific region, and they act in the specific region, and they are degraded when the action is completed, and that's why they are not stored, and because they are very highly unstable. Basically, the actions of eicosanoids are diverse in various organs. So it depends on the organs where these eicosanoids are released, like vasodilation, vasoconstriction, platelet segregation, contraction of smooth muscles, chemotaxis of leukocytes, release of lysosomal enzymes. So these are some of the actions of eicosanoids, and they are released at the places, and they basically do these actions at the various sites. Basically, by these actions they regulate the blood pressure. They play a very important role in the blood clotting mechanism. They also play a role in the immune system modulation. Production of these eicosanoids in excess cause pain, inflammation, fever, nausea, vomiting. Examples of eicosanoids are prostaglandins, thromboxanes, prostacyclins, leukotrienes, then HETES, that is hydroperoxy eicosa tetra units. So these are basically how they are being synthesized. We take essential fatty acids, as we discussed earlier. Essential fatty acids are linoleic, and arachidonic acid. These essential fatty acids, basically linoleic or arachidonic acid, is converted into membrane phospholipids. We have choline in that, phosphates in that. These membrane phospholipids are acted upon by phospholipases, and they basically convert them into arachidonic acid and epicoids. Basically the arachidonic acid is then acted upon by leukotrienes, lipoxygenase, and they form leukotrienes. Likewise, arachidonic acid is acted upon by cyclooxygenase, and they are converted into prostaglandin. We have different kinds of prostaglandins: PGE2, prostaglandin F, prostaglandin A, prostaglandin I. And when these epoxides are acted upon lipoxygenase, they form leukotrienes, and they can also arachidonic acid can also form thromboxanes. Okay, so basically this arachidonic acid is acted upon by these two enzymes, and which converts them into leukotrienes, thromboxanes, and prostaglandins. Different kinds of prostaglandins. Prostaglandins, thromboxane, every cell signal activates patent local hormones, acts and produce from the fatty acid from the milieu. Arachidonic acid is the major precursor of all the three pathways. They have a very short life. Okay, they work and they are degraded. So linoleic acid is converted to arachidonic acid, and arachidonic acid is basically acted upon by lipoxygenase, cyclooxygenase, and they are basically are converted to leukotrienes, thromboxane, and different kinds of prostaglandins. These two negative red signs basically are the inhibitors. For the inhibitor of phospholipase A2 is glucocorticoids, and inhibitor of cyclooxygenase is basically aspirin and other non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs. They basically block these drugs. These basically drugs block these areas, and basically doesn't allow this arachidonic acid to be converted to prostaglandins, and like membrane phospholipids is not converted to arachidonic acid by glucocorticoids. So that's how we treat the different kinds of fevers, pain, and relief by giving aspirin and NSAIDs, by blocking cyclooxygenase and by inhibiting the formation of prostaglandins. If prostaglandins are released, that causes fever, pain, inflammation, and if we stop these formation of prostaglandins, so we can uh, inhibit these symptoms of pain, inflammation, and fever. So these aspirin and non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, NSAIDs, basically block cyclooxygenase, and by this blocking cyclooxygenase, arachidonic acid is not converted to prostaglandins, and that's why the prostaglandins that cannot cause different kinds of symptoms. First of all, inflammation response after infection or injury. Vasodilation increases blood flow to the damaged area, controls bleeding that clot or activate complement system. White blood cells move to the injury, make cytokines, can give symptoms of pain, swelling, and fever. An inappropriate response is allergy and hypersensitivity. This is basically the response after the infection or injury to the area. First of all, there is increase in the blood flow, then activation of complement and clotting system, then movement of white blood cells so that the bacteria can be killed or viruses can be killed, and basically these prostaglandin released gives the symptoms of pain, swelling, and fever to that area, and can cause allergy and hypersensitivity. Second response of role of eicosanoids is smooth muscle contraction, the contraction of GIT tract specifically. Then another role of eicosanoids is it increases water and sodium excretion by kidney, so it can lowers the blood volume and can lowers the blood pressure also. It can cause constrictor of blood vessels. It is at some places is the dilator, so that's how it regulates blood pressure, by either dilating the blood vessels, by increasing the water and sodium excretion. Okay. Aspirin inhibits the COX enzyme, so this is how this cyclooxygenase is basically, as we discussed earlier, aspirin inhibits that. We have discussed this arachidonic acid, that's how the arachidonic acid is formed. It's a polyunsaturated 20 carbon fatty acids taken from the diet or made from essential linoleic fatty acids. Linoleic can be converted to arachidonic acid. The membrane phospholipids can be converted to arachidonic acid. Stimuli includes histamine and cytokines, which basically stimulate the formation of arachidonic acid. This picture 35.2 is showing stimulus binding to the receptor. Then receptor is activating 1 and 2. 1 is basically phospholipase A2, which is converting phosphatidylcholine into arachidonic acid. 2 is basically converting phosphatidylinositol biphosphate by phospholipase C enzyme to 1,2-diacylglycerol. 1,2-diacylglycerol is acted upon by lipase to form arachidonic acid, or monoacylglycerol or monoglycerol lipase again form arachidonic acid. This is how the arachidonic is formed in the cells by the stimulus of histamine and cytokines, by phosphatidylcholine, phosphatidylinositol biphosphates, or diacylglycerol or monoacylglycerol. So we have different kind. Then arachidonic is converted to different type of prostaglandins. These are the pathways: cyclooxygenase system, which forms prostaglandin thromboxanes, as we discussed earlier. Lipoxygenase pathway, which basically forms leukotrienes. Cytochrome P450, which forms epoxides in the liver. Different enzymes and different tissues gives specialization. Arachidonic acid form prostaglandins by cyclooxygenase system. Prostaglandins are formed in thromboxanes and from prostaglandin G. Arachidonic is acted upon lipoxygenase, which convert it into HPET, leukotrienes, HTET, lipoxygens. Then arachidonic is acted upon by cytochrome P450 system epoxides, which also form di-HET and HET. So we have three systems: cyclooxygenase system, lipoxygenase system, and cytochrome P450 system, which acts upon arachidonic acid, forming prostaglandins, thromboxanes, leukotrienes, lipoxygens, and epoxides. This is a cyclooxygenase pathway. As you can see that eicosanoids linoleic acid is converting into prostaglandin E2. Arachidonic acid is also converting into prostaglandins, and eicosanoids converts prostaglandins. So we have different kinds of prostaglandins: A, D, E, F, G, GH, and I. They have different functions at different tissues and different cells. They are the carboxylic acids that give a 5-membered ring and have a wide range of biological activities. Examples are PGF, PGE, PGA, prostaglandins F, prostaglandins E, prostaglandins A. They are responsible for inflammation. Aspirin and ibuprofen, which is brufen, relieve pain and inflammation by blocking the synthesis of these molecules. Prostaglandins also decrease gastric secretions, inhibit blood plates aggregation, stimulate uterine contractions, and relax smooth muscles. These are some of the functions of prostaglandins. Like, they basically inflame the area, so it can show that there is some problem, and they can decreases gastric secretions, inhibit blood plate aggregation, so a large clot cannot be formed. It basically causes uterine contraction so that the parturition or the childbirth can take place. It also relaxes smooth muscles. There are two different cyclooxygenase enzymes responsible for prostaglandin synthesis, known as COX-1 and COX-2. Cyclooxygenase 1 and cyclooxygenase 2, COX-1 and COX-2 in short form. COX-1 is involved in usual production of prostaglandins. COX-2 is responsible for additional prostaglandins in inflammatory diseases like arthritis, bone pain. Non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs known as NSAIDs like aspirin and ibuprofen inhibit both cyclooxygenase 1 and 2 but increase risk for stomach ulcer formation. Drugs sold as Vioxx, Metrax, Cellbox only have the COX-2 enzyme without affecting gastric secretions. Then we have cyclooxygenase pathway like thromboxanes. Thromboxane from platelets, most common thromboxane stimulates platelet aggregation, cause vasoconstriction. They are released basically when there is internal or external bleeding. Prostaglandin thromboxanes are formed from the arachidonic acid. As we discussed earlier, arachidonic acid makes prostaglandins. Prostaglandins, we have different kinds of prostaglandins, and prostaglandins can also form thromboxanes, prostacyclins. You can see arachidonic acid is converted into prostaglandins by cyclooxygenase system. Prostaglandin G is formed. Peroxidase converts prostaglandin G to prostaglandin H. Prostaglandin H can be converted to prostaglandin D by prostaglandin D synthase. Prostaglandin E synthase into prostaglandin E. Prostaglandin E can be reductase into prostaglandin F. Likewise, prostaglandin H is acted upon by prostaglandin I synthase, which converts it into prostaglandin I, also known as prostacyclins. Prostaglandin GH is acted upon by thromboxane synthase, which acts upon it and converts it into thromboxanes. Thromboxanes are produced by platelets, stimulate platelet aggregation and cause vasoconstriction. They are basically in the bleeding area. Prostacyclins are basically produced by vascular endothelial cells, inhibits platelet aggregation and cause vasodilation. So thromboxane and prostacyclins are antagonists to each other. They causes vasodilation and they causes vasoconstriction. So you can see by this cyclooxygenase system, arachidonic acid, which is very essential fatty acid, can be converted to different kinds of prostaglandins, thromboxane and prostacyclins. To normal diet, prostaglandin thrombus from arachidonic, mostly the two series in normal diet. COX-1 enzyme add two oxygens into prostaglandin. Peroxidase form prostaglandin tissue specific. Next, COX-1, COX-2. Okay. All tissues only form in platelets. Inducible inflammation provide pain relief. This chart is very good and it shows basically different how the arachidonic acid is converted to different things. COX inhibitors provide pain relief, reduce inflammatory response provided by pain relief like non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs labeled as NSAIDs. Aspirin irreversibly inactivates the enzyme. Acetaminophen, which is paracetamol, and ibuprofen, which is brufen, reverse inhibits, block both COX-1 and COX-2. Such acetylcyclase aspirin basically inhibits cyclooxygenase system, and that's why salicylates, acetaminophen, ibuprofen all basically inhibits this cyclooxygenase enzyme, and that's how this arachidonic acid is not converted to prostaglandin, and prostaglandins are not released, so they don't cause inflammation, pain, fever. That's how. Prostaglandin I, E, and D increases vasodilation in cyclic AMP system, decrease platelet aggregation, leukocyte segregations, T cell proliferation, interleukin 1 and 2, lymphocytes migration. These are the functions of prostaglandin I, E, and D. Prostaglandin F basically causes increased vasoconstriction, increased bronchoconstriction, increased smooth muscle contraction. Thromboxane increases vasoconstriction, platelet aggregation, lymphocyte proliferation, bronchoconstriction. These compounds are rapidly inactivated by oxidation. They have a very short life. Then we have lipoxygenase pathway, which forms leukotrienes, add oxygen to form hydroperoxy H5-HPET. Arachidonic acid acted is bound by lipoxygenase enzyme, which converts into HPETE, and that basically forms different kinds of leukotrienes: leukotriene A, leukotriene C, leukotriene B, leukotriene D, leukotriene E. Take we have GSH over here, which is the glutathione, which converts them HPETE into different types of leukotrienes. Like leukotriene B4 increases vascular permeability, T cell proliferation, leukocyte segregation, interferons, interleukin 1 and 2. Leukotriene C4 and leukotriene D increases bronchoconstriction, vascular permeability, and interferons. Prostaglandin thromboxane receptors have specific hormones. All are G protein coupled, signal through increased calcium in cytosol, signal through adenyl cyclic system. So prostaglandin F, thromboxanes, and leukotriene have a signal which is coupled to with G protein, and increased calcium in cytosol basically activates them. And prostaglandin E, prostaglandin D, prostaglandin I basically is acted upon by cyclic AMP and adenyl cyclase pathway. You will be studying them in the second mission system in physiology. What are leukotrienes? Asthma is characterized by chronic inflammation, so inhaled steroids to reduce inflammation are commonly used. So you can see this is a normal trachea or pathway, and this is how that is constructed in asthma. And to basically reduce the leukotrienes so that the vasoconstriction is relieved and the inflammation is relieved, we use steroids. Take care. Leukotrienes are the molecules that contribute to asthmatic response by constricting smooth muscles of the lungs. New asthma drugs by blocking synthesis of leukotriene C, which treat the disease instead of just inflammatory response. These are the key concepts you have to remember. Eicosanoids like prostaglandin, thromboxanes, leukotrienes are potent regulator of cellular functions. Eicosanoids are derived from POFA, arachidonic acid. Eicosanoids are important in the inflammatory response, smooth muscle contraction, blood pressure regulation. Prostaglandin and T requires cyclooxygenase system, and leukotrienes requires lipoxygenase system. Eicosanoids bind membrane receptors after prostaglandin A calcium levels increases. These are some of the questions. Certain prostaglandins, when bind to the receptor, induce increased intracellular calcium levels. Elevation of intracellular calcium is by which of the following enzyme? So this is basically the